Hey guys, Tommy with Elevation Every Weekend here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to do a first look of the brand new 2022 Trek Procaliber 9.5. I've had this bike just for a few days now. I haven't even really ridden it yet. It still needs pedals and grips and things like that, but I wanted to do a first look while it's still pristine and untouched. The Procaliber is Trek's cross-country carbon fiber hardtail race bike. There are currently 3 bikes in the Procaliber range. The 9.7 comes in at around $4,300. The 9.6 comes in just under $3,000. And this bike right here, the 9.5, comes in at $22, $29, and 99 cents. And the color scheme on this bike is two-tone. Trek calls it Radioactive Red and Trek Black. So I'm gonna go ahead and move behind the camera now so I can get in there and show you all the features and specs of the bike. Okay, we're on the back side of the camera now. You can see the bike in its entirety. So let's start with the frame. It does feature Trek's OCLV mountain carbon frame material. According to Trek, it uses unique materials and layup procedures to make it tougher to withstand rock strikes from debris and the high damage areas from trail riding. But despite this, they did include what they call carbon armor. And you can see 3 examples of that. One is right here. The other here is at the bottom of the down tube. And of course, as a lot of bikes have, you have it on the chainstay to protect it from the chain slap. Moving back up to this area here real quick, I think this spot here just gives it some additional protection in case of a crash and the fork spinning around. And I really think that's mainly a backup. And I say it's a backup because it does also include what Trek calls its knock block, which is basically a stop that's in the head tube here and prevents the front cockpit and fork from spinning around and again hitting the carbon frame and pulling out the cables. Another design feature of the frame is what Trek calls the straight shot down tube, and as you can see it goes straight down from the head tube to the bottom bracket. Trek says that this is designed to add frame stiffness without adding weight, and the frame also includes channels to make internal cable routing easier. The geometry is pretty classic cross-country with a 68.8 degree head tube angle, 43.2 centimeter chainstay length, and a 45 centimeter top tube. I mentioned the internal cable routing. You can see there is an additional port right there on the head tube, which could be used to route a dropper seat post. And then one of the things I'm always a big fan of is the ability to mount 2 bottle cages, and you actually have some flexibility on the positioning of the down tube one. So a big fan of that. One of the most unique features of the frame, and probably the thing I am most excited about, is the IsoSpeed decoupler, which you can see right here. Trek says this adds vertical compliance to the frame even though it maintains its status as a true hardtail. So not only is this for rider comfort, but it also helps with rider freshness and energy as it takes some of the chatter and some of the vibration out of the frame that you might otherwise have with a traditional hardtail. So I'm really interested and excited to try that out and see if it's just marketing or if there's really a benefit to be gained with that system. And I'm also glad it's not an actual integrated shock type thing like the Procaliber has, which has a service interval and is much more complex. And shifting to the rear triangle of the bike, it is a 148 millimeter wide boost spacing with a 12 millimeter through axle. And you can see there's a little bit of a frame feature there to go around the brake. So overall, the paint looks great. I'm really happy with the design of the frame. And I kind of appreciate this subtle detail. I don't know how well it'll come across on the camera with the Procaliber 9.5 kind of spelled out there on the top tube in a matte black finish. Kind of subtle, kind of classy, looks really good. So now let's shift gears and move on to the component spec of the bike beyond the frame. So kind of starting with the cockpit, the grips, handlebars, stem, seat post, and seat are all Bontrager branded parts. And I've had similar parts on other Trek bikes in the past and they've always been solid and reliable. Moving on to the fork, it does come with the Rockshox Judy 100 millimeter fork. It is an air spring fork, so that is good. And it does have your basic controls here for a lockout, and there is a little bit of range in there as well. This is probably the biggest price cutting concern I have for this bike, as the Judy's at the lower end of the Rockshox spectrum. One of the first things I noticed is it does only have 30 millimeter stanchions. I'm used to at least 32 millimeters on my higher quality forks I have on other bikes. So I will be really curious to see how this fork compares to some of the better forks I'm used to. And just as the rear triangle is boost spacing, the front is also 110 millimeter wide boost spacing, so that is good. And just to clarify, since I am talking the spacing on the front and the back, there are through axles 15 millimeter in the front, 12 millimeter in the rear, so very standard. So let's now move on and talk about the wheels a little bit. The bike does feature the Covey TLR wheels, which are tubeless ready. And this is actually one of the best value adds to the bike, is it has quality 120 TPI Bontrager XR2 tires which are 2.2 inches front and rear. And one of the things I was really happy about is not only are they tubeless ready, a lot of bikes are tubeless ready, but this bike actually came up set up tubeless from the factory. So you don't have to do that yourself or pay the shop another $100 to take care of that for you. I have used XR2 and 3 tires in the past, and I've found them to be pretty good as far as the quality, the traction. They roll fast, fairly lightweight. The only thing I've seen on the negative side is they do wear out pretty quick, but maybe that's changed in the last few years since I've used them. So next up, let's focus on the drivetrain for a moment. It is the Shimano Dior 1x12. The front chainring is 30 tooth, but you can run up to a 36 tooth chainring on the front, which is really nice. The rear cassette is a 12 speed and it is a 10 to 51 range. And the derailleur is a Shimano Dior derailleur. I have used Shimano Dior on a few bikes in the past and I've always had good luck with it, so no real concerns with that. And just to round things out, the bottom bracket is a Shimano Dior press fit MT500. And the cranks are Shimano as well. And just to kind of cap things off, let's talk about the brakes. They are also Shimano. They are the MT200 hydraulic disc. In the front, you have a 180 millimeter 6-bolt rotor. And in the rear, you have a 160 millimeter 6-bolt rotor. So interestingly, everything on the bike is either Bontrager branded or Shimano. So now that we've kind of gone over the spec of the bike, let's talk about my initial impressions on what I see and what I expect. As you see it right here without pedals, the bike weighed in at 26.32 pounds, and that is a large size frame. I do really like the appearance and the styling of the frame, and it looks like it really should be a fast and durable frame. As I kind of touched on, the feature I'm most excited about is the IsoSpeed, to see if it really makes a difference in comfort and on those longer rides. I'm really glad it's already set up tubeless, and I don't intend to do any tire changes for the foreseeable future. I'm just going to run it as it is. There's really only 2 aspects of the bike I'm slightly concerned about. First, the press fit bottom bracket is not my preference. I generally always prefer a threaded bottom bracket, but I do have experience with press fit bottom brackets in the past, bikes with thousands of miles on them, and I've never really had any major issues, so I don't expect it to be a major flaw. And the second point of concern is the Rockshox Judy fork. It's about the only aspect of the bike I can see wanting to upgrade fairly quickly, but I am going to at least thoroughly test it out and put some miles on it first and see how it performs. The way I'm going to use the bike, it might be just fine, but again, because I am used to higher quality forks, it might be something that I need to upgrade at some point. So overall first impressions are very favorable on my end, and I'm looking forward to getting the bike out and really putting it through its paces. So just to start to wrap things up, I will be getting this bike out really soon to test out on some gravel, and as soon as the trails dry out, definitely on some single track. I also plan to do a head-to-head comparison and contrast between this bike and my Canyon CF7, which is also a Carbon XC race bike. So definitely stay tuned if that'd be something you'd be interested in seeing. And I may also do a head-to-head comparison between this bike and my 2015 Trek Stache, which at that time was at about the same price point as this bike. So it might be interesting to see how things have changed in those 7 or 8 years. If you found the video helpful, definitely drop a like down below. And if you want to continue to follow my bike adventures and see what I think about this bike in much greater detail as I get it out and really put it to the test, definitely subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And if you have any questions or comments or other things you'd like to know about this bike, definitely drop those down in the comments down below. Lots of things on the agenda bike-wise this year, so definitely stay tuned. Thanks a lot and have a great day.